you don't know how well people are trained and what their training is until you've actually experienced them for a while. And oftentimes, it's not up to snuff. And so that's one of the things you have to sort of vet pretty well when you hire someone that's experienced.
Well, hello and welcome to another guest interview here on the Profit with Law podcast. I'm your host, Moshe Amsel, and I'm excited because today I've got a successful law firm owner that we're going to have a conversation about his law firm growth, challenges he's had, experiences he's had. I think that the best way for you to learn is to learn through others' travels, whether it's mistakes they've made or good decisions they've made. There's lessons to be learned along the way. And I think that when we have somebody who's got that experience under their belt, they've done what you are trying to do, it becomes something that you can use as a guideline. Now, every business is different, so that's why I'm not a big fan of coaches that are out there that are, hey, I've had success and this is what I've done, and therefore it's what's going to work for you, because it doesn't always work that way. But I do think that they do have a lot of value to provide. And you can learn and take these nuggets that you get from that and run with it to make a positive change in your business. So, really excited to have Daniel Scola here on the podcast. Daniel's the managing partner of Hoffman and Baron and also manages the chemical, pharmaceutical, biochemical, and medical device practice group in the New Jersey office. So I didn't realize you're in New Jersey. I'm in New York, so we'll have to play geography in just a second, see where we are.
Okay.
He has extensive experiences in polymers, pharmaceuticals, and medical devices. He also has vast proficiency in obtaining protection for software-related inventions, specializes in building IP portfolios and designing strategies to protect and enhance company value. It's all a mouthful. He also practices expansively in post-grant proceedings at the USPTO and has argued post-grant proceedings at the appellate level before the CAFC. Previously, he was counsel, patents, and trademarks, as well as assistant corporate secretary at the Warner Lampert Company and intellectual property attorney at, was it Loctite Corporation?
Loctite,
Whatever.
yeah. Hmm.
Loctite. Prior to earning his law degree, Scola was a chemist with particular experience in material science, including polymers, adhesives, and biodegradable approaches to material science and engineering. He was a scientist at the Pratt& and Whitney division of United Technologies. I love this bio of Daniel because I just want to point out there 99% of the listeners of this podcast, if not 100%, have zero experience with any of this stuff, which means that if somehow your paths cross with somebody who needs somebody who is experienced with chemical, pharmaceutical, biochemical, medical device IP issues, Daniel's your guy. So we're going to have a great conversation. He's going to provide a ton of value. I want you to bookmark this in your brain, write it down in your Evernote, wherever you keep notes, because one day that your path will cross with somebody who you can provide value by making that connection to Daniel. Daniel, welcome to the show.
Moshe, thank you very much. Very pleased to be here. Yeah, it's important. Yeah, I know we're probably talking to a lot of lawyers, and lawyers are always a great source of referral. I love giving referrals out when I can, and we do deal with a lot of corporate, entities, small, big, individuals, and so forth, where they have needs for IP, but they also have corporate needs. So a referral is always a good place to be. And I'm happy to do that. So hoping we can connect with some people on this show.
Awesome. Daniel, just give me, I read your official bio, but give me the story in an interesting fashion. How'd you
Yeah,
how'd you make the leap from
yeah,
scientist to lawyer?
yeah.
And now you're going out on podcasts and sharing the wealth of knowledge that you've built and created. Uh, talk us through just real briefly, that journey and those
Yeah.
decisions along the way.
Sure, happy to do so. Yeah, yeah. It is an interesting, many years ago, of course. Now, um, I was a chemistry major and in sciences, mostly because that's what my father did. And I was following in his footsteps. I saw that, he was always a creative guy, and I love creative things, and I'm big into music and so forth, and um, he developed a lot of inventions and got several of them stolen. and they became very important products, big products that are still out there now. And they were stolen, notebooks were stolen, and he didn't have the wherewithal to really go after it. So that started my thinking, how come you can steal people's ideas like that and get away with it? Well, if you don't have an attorney who understands it and you don't have the wherewithal or the money or the interest to go after it, and he didn't have any of those things, your ideas are going to get stolen. So then my mom said, you love people and you love interacting with people and you're good at it. You read people well, you understand people, you communicate reasonably well. Why don't you go to law school and become a patent attorney? And I thought, wow, that's just not a sexy business to be in. I mean, back then, the nerds were, they were not cool. Now nerds are very cool, right? The technology has exploded. But back then, it was, you thought of a patent attorney as somebody they put in the back room. Don't expose them to people. They won't understand what's going on. They can't relate. They're just give them a test tube, put them in the back room, dim the lights, green eye shades, pocket protector, the whole bit, right? So I said, I'm going to give this a try. So after law school, I went to work for Henkel, which is an adhesives company, and I was, in their technical side, but I used that ability to of the knowledge base and my interest to get into as a patent trainee there. So they took me on, they trained me in patents, and that's how I got my start. And it was really because I saw this initial, injustice of my father being stealing his ideas by a large company, making these things, and he couldn't do anything about it because he just didn't have the ability. And I thought, well, this is a good little niche field, and yeah, it's not sexy, but I could be good at this. So that's where I developed it from there. So I started as an in-house attorney because that's where the training was done. It's a little bit different than what most the attorneys do. Most attorneys get their training in law firms, and then they go inside to corporate practice because they don't train anymore in corporations. But back in the days when I started, they had big training programs inside corporations, especially in patents, because nobody knew even what a patent was. And then of course trademarks and copyrights, they're all part of intellectual property. Anytime you're protecting ideas, you can manifest those ideas, put them into some real form. That's intellectual property. Whether it's protectable or not, it's intellectual property. And it's our job to figure out how do you protect it? Can you protect it? So that's how I got started. And then I realized when I was in-house for a while that a lot of the outside firms didn't understand what the stresses were on an inside corporate attorney. It's very different than the outside attorney. So the inside guy was looking at, well, I've got to respond to marketing people. I've got to respond to the business people. I've got these, technical people that want my time and everybody has their different needs. And I have to integrate these and sort of make them all happy. And I need my outside counsel to understand that. Outside counsel doesn't usually understand that. What they understand is you got a legal question, I have a legal answer. And that's where I was able to, when I left corporate practice, to actually start the New Jersey office of the firm I'm with in the 90s. I used that as a basis for selling my firm because I said, look, you guys have different needs. I know your stresses, they're different. I went through them. You're looking for a firm which can address those stresses, not just the knowledge base. The knowledge base is core competency. You don't have the knowledge, you're not going to be able to do the work. But people want to know you understand their needs. They want to know you understand them and can communicate well to them, and they want to like you. Nobody wants to work with someone they don't like. I mean, even if they're really good, they sort of say, it's such a hard guy. I got to work with them, but I really don't like working with them. So those are the things that I would use to sell. And I started the office by myself in New Jersey. And, that was in 1991. So here we are.
Where in New Jersey are you?
I'm in Parsippany.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. I'm in Rockland County, New York, so I'm in
Oh,
Suffolk.
yeah.
I'm just on the border of Bergen County, so
Oh, yeah.
really not
Yeah.
far, about
Not
30,
far at all.
35 minutes from you.
It's drivable.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, All right, really interesting. So you've been at this since 1991. So when you started your walk me through the starting of your firm. Did you start it on your own? Did you start it with a partner? What did that look like? You're
Oh
just
yeah.
getting started.
Well, yeah, no. So it was a firm that it was a full six-member firm that was located in Long Island, and they had been practicing for a few years in New York City. And they wanted to start a firm of their own because they had clients that they felt they could address their needs better if they went on their own. And they didn't want to commute to the city anymore, so it was expensive, and it wasn't the cool thing to do because everyone needed a corporate address in New York City if you're around this area, right?
Yeah.
That's you got credibility if you're able to pay the rent in New York City and that sort of thing. So they decided, well, I'm not going to worry about that. We're just going to provide the services to this very particular area of patents, trademarks, and copyrights, trade secrets. We're going to go and we're going to start our firm in Long Island. I didn't want to go to Long Island. I found this firm because they were on the other side of a matter that I was handling when I was inside counsel at Warner Lambert. And they were doing a good job, but they were not just reasonable people to deal with. I knew that they knew what they were doing. And their approach was let's let's try to get to a win-win if we can. I mean, you have to be aggressive, you have to represent your client, all that stuff that you need to do as an attorney. But you also don't have to be a jerk about it. You can figure out how to get to from A to B in a way which makes the majority of people happy. I mean, they may lose, but they're not going to think you're a jerk. They would say, "Hey, that's a good firm." So that's how I felt with them. And of course, I happen to be in a position where I could say, I want to hire you after we're done in a non-conflicting situation. I want to hire you for some things. So I did. I hired them. And our interplay and a relationship built really well on some, shared values about how to approach, and how to do things. And so they offered me a job. And I said, thanks very much, but I'm not going to move to Long Island. I'm happy where I am and had a good corporate job. But they were relentless and they kept at it. And when I decided to leave, I was going to take over another corporate group, and I had 13 divisions of Warner Lambert reporting to me at the time, which was pretty big. I mean, that was a decent size, and it was a good position. I was going to move to go to J&J, take over a large group there and their IP. And the firm, Hoffman and Baron, approached me again and said, listen, I know on Monday you're supposed to start this new job. This was a Saturday morning. Would you be willing to come to lunch today, Saturday? And I said, I'll go to lunch, but guys, I've already accepted this job and I'm starting on Monday. I mean, I don't know what, don't have too many expectations on this. I'll certainly willing to talk. Well, by the end of Saturday afternoon, they convinced me, and I had no clients. I had no office. I had no knowledge of how to start a law firm. All I knew is I could deal with people at all kinds of levels, and all kinds of expertise pretty well. I'm a good listener, and I could integrate that. And I knew how to do. I knew the knowledge, the IP work. So I said yes, and I called up J&J the next day on Sunday and said, "I'm very sorry to tell you this, but I'm not going to be taking the job starting tomorrow." And they were like, "You are crazy. Do you realize what you're getting into?" I said, I do. But I want to be more entrepreneurial. This is an opportunity, a firm that believes in me. They're small. I mean, I'm going to take less money, but I think I'm going to enjoy it more and I'm going to grow it. That's what I'm going to do. And they said, good luck. Well, J&J eventually became clients. So they, they understood the decision. But that's kind of how it started. And I got to tell you, I was in my home. I had a thermal fax machine. I had a regular telephone. I used FedEx and driving back and forth. And I spent 10 grand of my own money the first year visiting clients and trying to, and clients. I didn't have any clients. I visited people I knew and I told them what my plan was. And I asked them for business. I asked them for work, knowing what their needs were because I dealt with these people when I was inside. They were all using other firms, all of them. And I still have some of those clients that I got in the first 3 months today.
So you acquired clients through your existing relationships with them from your private practice or commercial business, that you were in. Um, and you did that by just putting in the hustle, going out there, meeting with them, and more importantly, asking for business. I think it's really important to point that out, right? Like so many people are afraid to do that, afraid to ask for business. And Alex Hormozy, I don't know if you're familiar with him. He has a book, $100 million uh, sales, I think it is.
Mhm.
And in that book, he talks about how everybody's got like when you start looking through all of your social media friends, all of your contacts in your phone, all of your email correspondence, you probably have 2 to 5 thousand people that you have some sort of direct connection or relationship with at a minimum. And if we would simply start there and reach out to every single one and let them know what we're doing and let them know how to send us business and that we need business to be sent to us,
Mm, mm.
that would probably give somebody enough business to really get started and get started well. So, you figured that out on your own. You understood you needed to get clients. Um, but to your point, it was me and a fax machine and a phone line in my home, right? And that's a great place to start. But then you're spending all your time going to get clients. But now you get clients, now you need to spend time serving them, and then you can't spend time getting them. So I'm sure, fairly quickly fell into this area where doing everything yourself doesn't work. At what juncture did you realize that you're going to need more than that? How long did that take? And what was the process of starting to bring a team on?
Yeah. Um, it it probably took me most of the first year to really get to a point where, gosh, I can't continue developing business, servicing clients, doing the work. And a lot of the clients need more hand-holding than you think, especially, the ones I enjoy the most are the ones that are startup and they're small and they know they have a need, they're not even sure what the need is. So you have to really hold their hands a lot. The large corporate ones, not so much because they're well established, they have um, a strategy in place. They just need execution. That's much easier. But once you get to a point where you can no longer, have any time to yourself. Like if you're, initially you might be working 10, 12 hours a day, nonstop doing stuff, but you can't do that forever. So there's a point when you're going to have to say, you know what? I need to get someone to do this type of work, but they have to be good enough so I can, do some training, but let them go. So then I started hiring people, and I would hire someone who I needed to train brand new at first because I couldn't afford to hire someone who was experienced. So I needed to hire someone at a level where, yeah, I would have to invest some training. Now, in my business in IP, the first 2 years of training, you're lucky if you break even with someone. That's how much the investment is. You can't let someone go alone, probably until 4 or 5 years, and then they become more like a senior type of person. They can do things on their own. It's very difficult because think about it this way. Um, if you're a business that has important IP and that IP's got millions of dollars of research invested in it, and maybe stockholders at some point, or maybe you've got private angel investors or whoever has put their money up, and you're going to give it to someone that's inexperienced to protect and potentially lose, you're not likely to do that. You need someone who can trust, at the buzzer, will that person make the 3-point shot or not? Are they going to really work for me or are they just working for the money? And so what I would teach these people is I said, look, the work is sacred. The money comes if you do a really good job and not worry about don't focus on how much time it takes. Focus on how quality is. I'll worry about the time. If you're spending way too much time, then I need to step in and I'll help you. But I don't want you focusing on that. And that's how I actually built the reward system internally. I said, look, I'm going to give you a bonus just for putting in enough time to learn this, just for doing that, because I'm going to assume that you're trying to learn by putting that much time in. And then I'm going to do a whole separate area of reward for the amount of that goes out the door that's actually billable. So you're getting something for just investing. That's my investment in you. I'm going to give you a small bonus for that. And then I'm going to also give you a bonus for things that you do. So that's kind of how I built the firm. And I built it, when I got a client, if I thought that client was going to be big, I would hire ahead of time. So for a while, they weren't like inundated with work. I had more employee ability than I had client ability. And I had to live with that for a little period of time, not for long, for three-quarters of a year, maybe that's what it was. But I always knew that I would get enough clients to eventually fill them up. And as I did, they were learning and coming to a very similar mindset that I had about how you service clients. So that's kind of how I did it. I mean, it's not by any means brain surgery. It takes a lot of belief in yourself. You have to be positive. Can't worry about getting rejected. Um, and people often, expect to hit a home run every time they get up. It's not going to happen. You create relationships. And I know this is like, okay, everyone's going to say you have to have good relationships, but nothing could be more true than when you create a relationship, if you think about what it really is, it's your willingness to connect with someone, to give of yourself to someone, and then understand that whatever they do with that is okay. Don't have huge expectations about it. You don't do things just to get the reward back. You do them because you want that person to know you're connecting with them. That's the relationship. If it comes back, then that's the payoff. That's tremendous. But it doesn't always come back. So, I mean, that's the mindset.
Yeah, love that. And it's really interesting that it takes so long to get that attorney onboarded, trained up. I mean, you really need to have that runway for them. And I'm curious on the financial side, like, how did you swing that? How were you able to capitalize the
Yeah.
the expense of carrying them for all that time where they're really not pushing a lot of billable work out the door? Because that's a big thing that, I mean, even our clients are not IP. We advise clients to bring in somebody experienced, pay the premium for having an experienced person come in the door because you don't want a project right now, right? Like you need somebody who's going to push work out the door. I don't know if that's not a possibility for IP, but talk about your experience navigating the financial part of that because we like, the story is great and I'm enthralled listening to you. I'm loving it, but there had to have been some angst there. So share some of that if you don't mind.
Oh, yeah, yeah. The X was ever present the first few years for sure. But I think the people that I had joined and I was here sitting in New Jersey by myself at the beginning. They were very supportive about most of everything I did really, and uh, we all sort of are the same mindset that, look, we want to pay the bills. So if we don't take out a lot of profit, that's okay in the beginning. And, I don't think we ever got to a point where, we had to take loans out, just to pay salaries or to pay the rent. We never had to do that. Um, and that was fortunate. And that was because when I went after clients, I initially went after clients that I knew had money to pay and they were fairly quick payers. I sort of knew, um, from my relationship with them when I was inside a corporation, how their companies also worked. So I used that. So I got some fairly 3 or 4 fairly large clients where all we had to do is get enough work for them to cover the bases. And if we weren't making a lot of money ourselves, that was okay because that's going to come. And that was my sale pitch to them as well. That was included. I'm more worried about making sure I get it right for you guys. And the money, I know the money's going to come because you're going to give me more work. You're going to be happy with it. I know you're going to be happy with it. And if you're not, you let me know and we'll make it better. So yeah, it was angst because we weren't making a lot of money. But in my business, you cannot, yeah, you cannot take a young person. Now I couldn't at the time couldn't. Now I look for more senior people. But here's also the tricky thing, Moshe, with the senior people, and you might have experienced this in something. I see our time is getting close, but I want you to say just to hear this. You don't know how well people are trained and what their training is until you've actually experienced them for a while. And oftentimes it's not up to snuff. And so that's one of the things you have to sort of vet pretty well when you hire someone that's experienced.
Yeah, I
So
think the other challenge with experienced people is they usually are trying to up level their career. They're trying to take on a challenge. They want to grow.
yeah,
And often if you're not more advanced than where they're at, then they don't see you as an opportunity for that. So it becomes a challenge there as well. It's not just the paycheck they're after. They
for
want
sure.
the right environment, but they also want to be
100%.
able to navigate their own career path within,
Yeah.
that relationship that they're creating with you.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Yeah.
Daniel, this was a great conversation. I mean, we probably could go for another hour because it's so interesting, and
Yeah.
our listeners, I'm sure, are enjoying it too. We didn't really get to, the next phases of growth, and maybe there's an opportunity for us to have another conversation if you're willing to do it at some point. My team
Yeah.
will set that up if you're
Let's do
willing.
that. Yeah. I would
Um,
like that. Yeah.
yeah.
Very
As
nice.
as we shut down the podcast, so
Yeah.
basically, I close every episode with the same thing. Two questions for you. Number one parting piece of advice or wisdom that you'd like to share with our audience. Number two, how would you like to our audience get in touch with you if they want to connect with you after hearing this interview?
Yeah. Well, the one piece of advice I would say that in the field of IP, the ideas are everywhere. People don't realize how it infiltrates their lives. All the products, all the processes, it's always behind the scene that you see that. And if you have people or clients that are making products, having processes, or doing something interesting, and they're making a lot of money off it, there's probably IP associated with it. Most likely there is. And you just have to ferret it out. And they don't know they even have it many times. That's the one thing I could mention. And as far as getting in contact, I would love to share referrals with anyone or just answer questions. And, if they go to the website, Hoffman Baron.com, or hbiplaw.com, or my email address is dscola at hbiplaw.com. I'm happy to answer any questions, give a free consultation. I love to meet new people, love to get some referrals for the, contact list and so forth. So,
Awesome, Daniel. Really appreciate you being here, folks. We're gonna link all that up in the show notes. Should be in your podcast player in the right beneath the episode, or you can go to profitwithlaw.com. Check out the full article write up on this episode, including the resources section that has all the links for anything that was mentioned. We're here every single Thursday with another amazing guest interview. Really loved the conversation today with Daniel, and we're gonna have more attorneys who have achieved some level of success with the growth of their practice here on the podcast. So if you enjoy hearing those stories and hearing the insight or their experiences, you definitely want to make sure you're tuning in. So hit that subscribe button in your podcast player or on the YouTube channel that you're watching so you get notified every time we release a new episode. We're here every single Thursday with another brand new episode, another interview with a guest expert here on the Profit with Law podcast. And if you want to explore what it might look like to work with us, We work with solos who are trying to grow beyond themselves or small. So if you're in the 250 to 750 revenue range, trying to go to 1 to 2 million, we have a program, the Law Firm Growth Elite group coaching program. You start with a free strategy session with somebody on our team where we help you to really get clarity about what it's going to take to get to that next stage of growth. And you can book that at profitwithlaw.com/strategy session. Last time I said strategy call. I don't know which is the right one, but try both of them. We'll link that up in the show notes. I don't know why I'm having trouble with that today. And we also do fractional CFO services for 2, 3 million plus revenue firms. So if you're interested in exploring that, book a similar type of call at the same URL. And then finally, we have a tax firm. We are different than your typical tax accountant. We do tax strategy and tax planning with our clients throughout the year. Most people go to their tax accountant after the year is over. It's too late at that point to do anything as far as formulating any sort of tax reduction strategy. The right time to do that is throughout the year. We work with our clients. We meet with them every single quarter. If that's the kind of relationship you're looking for on the tax side, and we did a webinar recently where we showed how one attorney had paid $500,000 more in taxes than necessary through one simple error. We also demonstrated how we helped another attorney get a brand new car completely paid for by their tax savings. So if you want to view that webinar, see that information of what happened in those two situations, and to kind of get an idea of the kind of work that we do, definitely reach out to my team and ask us, or just book that strategy session as a follow up to that call or a precursor to it. We'll be happy to send that recording to you. That's it, folks. We'll see you next week. Take care. And yeah, just keep that business simple. Does not need to be complicated. Have a wonderful day.